Ever wondered why your brain struggles to understand the magnitude of large numbers? Well, let's dive into the fascinating world of the human brain and its relationship with large numbers. To begin with, the human brain is a marvel of nature, capable of astonishing feats. However, when it comes to comprehending large numbers, it hits a bit of a roadblock. This is primarily because our minds operate on a sense of scale that's based on our everyday experiences. Take, for instance, the concept of a billion. Most of us are familiar with the term, but can we truly visualize what a billion of something looks like? Probably not. To put it into perspective, if we were to count from 1 to a billion at a rate of 1 number per second, it would take us nearly 31 years, 7 months, 8 days, 18 hours, and 46 minutes. Now that's a significant chunk of a lifetime, isn't it? But why is it so difficult for us to grasp such large numbers? Well, the answer lies in the evolution of our species. Our ancestors, living in small groups, rarely had to deal with numbers beyond a few hundred. Thus, our brains evolved to understand numbers on a comprehensible human scale. However, in the modern world, we often encounter numbers that far exceed this scale. Think about the national debt, the distance between galaxies, or the number of cells in the human body. These are numbers so large that they boggle the human mind. So we resort to analogies and comparisons to make these numbers more digestible. Yet, despite our best efforts, there remains a disconnect between our understanding and the true magnitude of these large numbers. As we explore this fascinating topic, we'll delve deeper into why our minds struggle with these gargantuan figures and how we've developed strategies to cope with them. As it turns out, our brains aren't designed to comprehend such large figures. But why is that? Stay tuned as we unravel this intriguing conundrum in our next segment. So, let's dive into the concept of scale, a fundamental aspect of our struggle with large numbers. Now, when we say scale, we're talking about the size or extent of something in relation to a standard or a system of measurement. It's something we use every day without even realizing it. When you measure how tall you are, how much you weigh, or how far you've walked, you're using scale. Here's a simple example. Imagine a ruler. When you measure an object with it, you're comparing the object's size to the standard units on the ruler. That's scale in action. It's a tool that helps us understand and navigate the world around us. But here's where it gets tricky. Our everyday understanding of scale can become distorted when we start dealing with exceptionally large numbers. Our brains are wired to understand and operate in the world of small numbers, say, up to a few thousand. We can imagine 100 apples, or even 1,000. But what about 1,000,000 apples, or 1,000,000,000? Suddenly, it becomes much harder for us to visualize. This is because the scale of 1,000,000 or 1,000,000,000 is much larger than anything we usually deal with in our daily lives. To put it in perspective, 1,000,000 seconds is about 11.5 days. But 1,000,000,000 seconds? That's over 31 years. The difference is staggering, and yet, to our brains, 1,000,000 and 1,000,000,000 might not seem all that different. It's like trying to understand the distance between the Earth and the Moon by comparing it to the length of a football field. The numbers are just too big, and our brains struggle to process them. This distortion of scale is one of the reasons why we find it hard to grasp large numbers. It's not that we're incapable, but rather our brains aren't naturally equipped to handle such vast scales. Now that we have a grasp on scale, let's see how it plays out in real-world examples. Prepare for a mental journey as we explore some mind-bending examples. Picture this. You've just become a millionaire. You decide to celebrate by counting your wealth, $1 at a time. If you count $1 per second non-stop, you'd be finished in less than 12 days. Quite a party, right? Now let's say you've hit the big time and you're a billionaire. You're feeling ambitious and decide to count your wealth, again, $1 at a time. How long do you think it would take? A few months? Maybe a year? Think again. Counting $1 billion at the same pace would take you over 31 years. Yes, you heard that right, over 3 decades. The difference between a millionaire and a billionaire isn't just an extra 3 zeros. It's a difference so large that our brains struggle to truly grasp it. We know a billion is 1,000 times larger than a million, but when we try to visualize it, it's easy to underestimate the enormity of that difference. Let's try another example. Suppose you wanted to create a paper chain with a link for every second in a day. You'd need 86,400 links. Now, imagine you wanted to create a paper chain with a link for every second in a year. That chain would contain over 31 million links. That's a lot of paper. These examples highlight how our brains struggle to comprehend large numbers. We understand the words million and billion, we can do the math, but truly grasping the enormous difference between these numbers is another matter entirely. This struggle isn't a failing, it's a testament to the staggering enormity of these numbers. In our day-to-day lives, we rarely encounter numbers of this magnitude, so our brains aren't wired to intuitively understand them. Isn't it fascinating how these large numbers can play tricks on our minds? But why does our brain struggle with these large figures? Let's delve into the science behind it. Our brain, as incredible as it is, has its limitations. It's designed to deal with the tangible, the immediate, and the concrete. Things we can see, touch, and experience in our everyday lives. When we start dealing with numbers in the millions or billions, we're venturing into a realm that our brain isn't naturally equipped to handle. Let's touch upon cognitive psychology and neuroscience to explain this phenomenon. Our brain processes information using two systems, as proposed by psychologist Daniel Kahneman. The first, System 1, is fast, intuitive, and emotional. It's responsible for our quick reactions and gut feelings. The second, System 2, is slower, more deliberate, and more logical. It's where complex problem-solving occurs, and it's this system that we use when grappling with large numbers. Unfortunately, System 2 is limited. It's resource-intensive, requiring more mental effort and concentration. As a result, we often default to using System 1, even when dealing with large numbers. This is why we struggle to comprehend the sheer magnitude of these figures. We're using a fast, intuitive system to process information that requires slow, deliberate thought. Additionally, neuroscience provides insight into this issue. The human brain wasn't designed to understand large numbers because for much of our evolutionary history, we didn't need to. Early humans lived in small groups and dealt with quantities they could easily see and count. There was no need to comprehend millions or billions. This means our brains are still wired in a way that favors smaller, manageable numbers. Regions like the parietal cortex, which plays a significant role in numerical cognition, are naturally better equipped to deal with numbers in the hundreds or thousands rather than millions or billions. So while our brains may be powerful, they do have their limits when it comes to understanding large numbers. Now that we've taken a deep dive into the world of large numbers, we hope you've gained some insight into the workings of your own mind. We've seen how the human brain, while extraordinary, finds it challenging to grasp the concept of large numbers. We've explored the concept of scale, helping you visualize the staggering difference between a millionaire and a billionaire using seconds as an analogy. We've also touched on the brain's limitations, explaining why our minds struggle with comprehending vast quantities. We appreciate you joining us on this mental expedition. Your time, your curiosity, your willingness to learn, it all means the world to us. If you enjoyed this mental journey and want to explore more fascinating topics, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with your friends. Stay curious and keep exploring the wonders of the human mind.